Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Revit and BIM Collaborate Pro webinar. My name is Carolina Fernandez, and I work in both marketing and sales here at MicroCAD. Today, we'll be joined by Phil Marshall, who will be hosting the event. He has a lot of expertise in the industry, so we're really excited for what he has prepared for us today. Something else to keep in mind is in the left side of the webinar, you're going to see a questions box. Be sure to be using that throughout the webinar. At any moment, you can ask a question, and we'll go over that at the end. Something else to keep in mind, right now we currently have our summer promotion going on for training. So when you register one person for training, get the other one up to 20% off, if not more. So definitely something to reach out to your sales rep in regards to. And without further ado, we'll have this webinar started, and I'll pass it on to Phil. Phil, do you want to start sharing your screen?
I just started sharing.
Perfect.
There we go. All right, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on Autodesk Collaborative Design Tools. Collaborative design means making the right information available to all the partners on the project, the right information at the right time to all the partners whenever they need it. In the office, at home, in the trailer, on site, wherever they're working. And what do you get out of that? More productive designers, a higher quality design, and avoiding all the common errors that plague projects. My name is Phil Marshall, and this webinar is one of a series offered by MicroCAD to assist our colleagues to be more productive and effective. As a company, MicroCAD empowers design professionals in the construction and manufacturing industries to increase productivity and meet project goals. With 30 years of experience as a minority-owned business, we pride ourselves on working with clients through every stage of the design process to assess needs and provide tailored and effective solutions. Today, we're focusing on the functionality and workflow supporting design collaboration, where multiple people can participate in the design process and share information synchronously. This is clearly where the biggest benefits of BIM are. Autodesk has taken this concept and put it on the cloud as a platform named Autodesk Construction Cloud. The link to design authoring tools is a product named Autodesk Bim Collaboration Pro. This webinar is intended to give you an understanding of what Autodesk Bim Collaboration Pro is and how it works. Other webinars will cover other functionality of Autodesk Construction Cloud. One other point, the excitement of cloud services is that they can be updated and extended continuously. So this webinar will cover the capabilities as they exist today, but next week there may be brand new functionality. We will repeat cloud services webinars in the future and expand them to cover all the new tools. But first, let's talk about the problems that the Autodesk Collaboration Design Tools are intended to address. This applies to both vertical and horizontal construction endeavors, architectural, civil, plant engineering. Projects are getting more complicated, data is getting heavier, and the number of participants is increasing. These partners could be located anywhere, but they have to share information. Using a BIM model as a central data repository makes sense in this environment, but how do all these players get access to the data? From experience, we know that solutions like Dropbox or error-prone FTP sites, consumer IT resources, and SharePoint-like approaches don't provide the integration with the design tools that we need. Connectivity is no longer a 9-to-5 thing. People are working 24/7 from their home, their car, the trailer. We need better. Autodesk saw the solution as being cloud-based and tied to the software you use in everyday work. Autodesk Construction Cloud provides access anywhere with any device, freeing up the workers to get out of the trailer and onto the site. It provides collaboration tools to enable designers to create submission sets for review and monitor the progress of the review. All of the project data from the BIM model can be reviewed in 3D or as a 2D drawing set. This data can be architectural, MEP, structural, civil, whatever. It's all in one location. The corollary of having a strong BIM-oriented data management system is being able to create and track issues, providing for the implementation of safety programs, including checklists and exclusion zones, and auditable management of RFIs and submittals. And this isn't a vision of the future. Real companies are building real structures today using Autodesk Construction Cloud. Whether it's the world's tallest modular structure, complex highway and bridge projects, or commercial construction, all have benefited from Autodesk Cloud services. Today I'm going to be talking about using Revit with Autodesk Bim Collaboration Pro, but Autodesk has released an integration with Civil 3D and an integration with Plant 3D. This allows infrastructure designers to also share their work in the cloud, perform markups, and participate in review processes. And AutoCAD users aren't ignored. The Autodesk Desktop Connector allows other applications like AutoCAD to work in the cloud and share references. In a collaborative project, users are grouped as a team. Usually a team would consist of the people working in a discipline, but it isn't limited to that. Here we've created 3 teams, one for architecture, for fire protection, and MEP. As we create the teams, we can assign individuals. Note that as you create teams, it will automatically create folders under the project files folder for the team. This is the home location the members of the team will use to store their designs. As well as creating the folders for the teams, it creates a subfolder named Consumed in each discipline folder. This is where a discipline can have packages that they trust as linked files. And it creates a folder named Shared, which has subfolders for all of the teams. These folders are really important when we look at the workflows you could have. Autodesk recognizes that different situations require different approaches. So they create a system that allows you to use one workflow for a traditional design bid build project and a different workflow for a design build or IPD project. Linking Revit models to the different folders will give different workflows. Let's do an overview of the process of design collaboration. We'll get into the specifics later. Cloud Worksharing allows multiple users on the team to simultaneously work on a single central file. So here we could have multiple architects doing their design work on this single central file. When they're done with each individual design, they would sync to central and update that central model. This concept is nothing new for Revit users. What is new is keeping the central file on the cloud. When the Autodesk architect team wants to share the model with others on the project, they would publish sets of models, views, and sheets. These are put in the shared folder available to everyone on the project. Each discipline, structural, MEP, civil, and so on, could explore the shared data and okay it for use with their models, which moves it to the consume folder. Then each discipline can continue their work. So the structural engineers can continue working on their model, the MEP can continue working on their model in a work shared environment where you have multiple engineers working at a time. While all of this is going on, members can communicate by creating issues for resolution and being involved in review processes. Partners in the projects don't have to have Revit to participate in this collaboration. Anyone can create an issue, and the issue can be assigned to someone with an expected completion date. These issues can be managed, reviewed, and maintained in the document management portion of BIM Collaboration Pro. Issues create an audit trail, which can be reviewed at the end of the project. A summary of outstanding issues also shows on the project homepage. Anyone with the right privilege can initiate a review process for sets of documents. People assigned to the review can mark up the documents, review and approve or reject, and the whole process is managed so people can see what reviews are in process and which are assigned to them. So people who are not Revit authors can be involved in review and monitoring the issues and tracking the issues. The review process is configurable, so you can define what steps are required for the review. These collaboration tools, Worksharing, release packages, consuming packages, issues, and reviews, can be configured in different ways to meet your particular needs on that particular project. The specific workflow will depend on how closely the partners will be working. A high level of trust between the partners would mean they'd be counting on immediate updates. A need for more control would have more incremental reviews with more steps for control. But you would configure the workflow for each project that you're working on. So let's see how these things would look in a live project in Revit and BIM Collaboration Pro. So here we're within a project within Autodesk Construction Cloud. This is the hub for our particular set of data, but each company would have their own hub in the cloud. And within that hub, you can have any number of projects that you could be working on at any time. Right now, we're going to be looking at the project named Sample Project. And within Sample Project, we can build a folder structure that reflected, like we've said before. You have a top-level folder of plans, which are basically static drawings of cut sheets, specifications, and release packages. These documents would not be expected to change. So if we're looking at cut sheets, for example, these are particular objects that are included in the project, and we wanted to have a cut sheet for them. Project file folder is where the working drawings are, where the working models are being controlled, and these could be by individual discipline. So we would have an architecture, an electrical, fire protection, all these different disciplines would be involved as folders within the project file folder. Let's bring up a model from the architectural file. And this is a 3D project that they're working on. And this is started as a Revit 3D project. But as you can see, we can pan, zoom, orbit. So we can look at it in a real 3D sense and understand and analyze what is going on. And if we want to, we can look at the inside of the building by creating a section box that cuts the building. So I could look at what's really the entranceway. What does it look like? What do people see going down that hallway? So you can work with the building and really understand the structure of the 3D model. As well as bringing in the 3D model, it brings in 2D drawings that were created in Revit. So if we go to one of these, it's a 2D drawing, and these 2Ds as well as the 3Ds could have redlining. So there's an entire panel of redlining functions that let you mark up bubble and cloud and giving some text, marking up, including dimensionality, the drawings for communication with other people. Now, when you create these markups, they could be created as a private markup, meaning that they're available only to people on your team, or as a public markup that's available to anyone who has access to that document. So you could mark up, hey, Mark, move that duct over 3 inches and keep it private so that other people outside of your team would not see it. But if you wanted it to be displayed to everyone, perhaps you say, how about this new arrangement? Then that would be a public markup that you would share with everyone on the project. As well as markups, you can measure off of this model. You can measure in 2D or 3D. Here we're going to look at the 2D and measure the width of this corridor, for example, at 16.3 and change. You also could measure areas. So if I wanted to see how big that room is, so that's 279 square feet. So as I make that measurement, this is all an intelligent model that's usable for the kinds of things that you would be using 2D drawings for, but it is tied to the 3D model. Let's go back to the 3D again. And we see these yellow dots. What these yellow dots represent are issues. So someone has identified that there might be an area of concern, whether it's a problem, whether it's an opportunity, and they've indicated it by locating it on the model. So in this particular one is different shading. So the client's evidently client feedback. They want different shading on that brick wall. So probably a different specification for the brick that was used. These issues, you're filling out the information about the issues, and they can have a lot of information or a little information, whatever is convenient for you. So this particular one is a type of a design client feedback. You could specify a location, you could specify any link documents. For example, if you had a photograph of the actual construction that you wanted to show its construction quality problem, then you would include that photograph with the issue. When you assign issues, you can assign it to individuals with an expected due date. So you would say, I want so-and-so to take a look at it and give them a target date for resolving those issues. Remember that all of the issues are auditable, so the system keeps track of all of the issues that have been created for this particular project, so that at the end of the project, you can look at the issues saying, what kind of issues are they? Who was responsible? Do we want to work with that subcontractor again? So it's a useful way of looking at what's going on the project. When you get to the point that you feel that the model is at a point you want to share it with others and submit it to a formal review process, you could grab several documents and put them into a workflow for review. And you can create your own workflows, whether it's one person, two people, or three people, however many people actually go through the review. And then each individual person could be acting a role. So it could be the project leader, whoever the project leader is at that time, or it could be a specific person. I want Sue to look at this particular drawing and approve it. So you can specify the people who are involved in the review and what their options are. So they could review, reject, or pass it off to someone else to review. You'd specify the review and then say, go ahead and take these documents and submit them to the review. And at that point, an email will go out to the person who's responsible for the review. And that would indicate to them, you've got to review this document or sets of documents, and this is what we're looking for. So it directs people to respond to that review. Once you're set and you feel this is ready now for a submittal document, you can create a transmittal as a cover sheet, which takes a snapshot of the model at that time and puts it available in the other area, the other folder area, so that anyone who has access can go in and look at these documents. This might be a 30% release document, or it could be a 50% final review. Regardless of what the purpose is, the transmittal document will be a cover sheet that has the information that says what documents are included, who is it sent to, and what happened. Was there any review? Was there any comments that came back? So creating the transmittals, again, is an audit trail that you could use to indicate who received what information at what time. So far, we've been looking at the Autodesk Construction Cloud as what you would see in the cloud, but let's look at it from the Revit point of view. Revit, of course, is the authoring tool for working with buildings from Autodesk. And I've opened this project, which lives in the cloud. So this project was downloaded from the cloud, and it allows me to do work in this particular project. Just like we can do work sharing locally, you can use work sharing in the cloud so that you have multiple people working on this project. So Joe is designing the air conditioning system for the first floor. At this very same time, Sally is laying out the plumbing for the bathrooms, and Joe is looking at the arrangement of the rooms. And they could all be working at the same time on the same model. They're coordinated by synchronizing with Central. So when Joe is done with the design of this particular venting system, then he would synchronize the Central. It would update the Central model in the cloud, and the other engineers would see that there was some new information, and they would see his work as soon as it synchronized the Central. So like I said before, this is nothing new. Revit's had this for a long, long time, but now it's in the cloud, meaning that the locations they're working from could be anywhere. They could be working in the office, they could be working at home, they could be working at the local Starbucks, whatever. They can be working remotely as long as they have internet access and participate in this work sharing environment. When you're working in the cloud, you have the ability to also publish these models. So as I said before, you're working within the architectural group or within the MEP group, whatever discipline group you are, you're working within your team. And then when the team as a whole said, we've got all of the HVAC designed, let's make it available for the architectural team. Let's make it available for the civil team. Let's make it available for everyone. So what they would do is then go into the publish settings and say, these are the drawings I want to publish. You can have different views, different sheets. You could have 3D models. So you specify what it is that you're sharing. And then you go into the publish, where we identify the cloud models that exist for this particular discipline on this particular project. And then we could choose the cloud model, like this one is the MEP model. We could say, given that we've updated it, we want to publish to make it available to all the members of the project. You'll notice there's some other files here which have already been published. So this one, the latest version is already published. This one also, the latest version is published. So what you do is once you publish it, you know that what's being presented in the cloud is the most recent version. And if you've used Revit, you know that one of the ways that we separate the work of different people is by using linked files. So if this is in the cloud, if the MEP model is in the cloud, then we would want all of the linked files to also be in the cloud. So here we've linked to the architectural model, and it says, indeed, we are in the cloud. We're in the cloud project, test project, and this is where the file is in the cloud. So all of the work on this particular project lives in the cloud. I showed you before, when you're working in the construction cloud, that you can create and manage issues. So we could have people who aren't using Revit create issues that the people who are working in Revit may need to address. So what you can do within Revit is say, I want to take a look at the issues. And this particular model has 3 issues that somebody created. And these are issues because I'm responsible for the MEP work that I've got to address. So I could go in and say, check sizing of the air handler unit. So I could take a look at this air handler unit and do some calculations and determine whether it's the right size, and then respond to that. And in fact, even say, this issue is now closed. I've responded, and this is the answer. AHU is big enough. So I can actually close the issue from within Revit. So the advantage here is that the authors are working in their authoring tools, whether it's Revit or Civil 3D or Plant 3D, and within this authoring tool, they can address issues that were created by people who don't have Revit. All right, let's go back to the Construction Cloud and look at what is going on there. As we go through the design process, each of the disciplines is doing their design work. They're using reviews to make sure they've done what they want to. They've addressed the concerns by addressing issues. At some point, people are going to want to take a look at model coordination. That is, are there any interferences? Did the pipe run through the duct? Do we have a piece of equipment that overlays a structural beam? Obviously, something very important to be resolved. So within the BIM Collaboration Pro, you have the ability to do model coordination. So if I look at the model coordination capabilities, I've got within this project, I've got two files. I've got the architectural file and I've got the MEP file. I'm going to do a coordination check between the architectural and the MEP and see what interferences there are. So it looks at those two models and it came back fairly quickly with 110 clashes between this file and 94 clashes here. And the reason they're different numbers is that you could have one pipe intersecting 5 walls. So in the MEP file, it's counted as 1 interference. In the architectural file, it counts as 5 interferences. So we have these interferences. Well, but we've got to take a look at them. What's going on here? So if we take a look at the interferences that's been calculated for us, and by the way, you could have not just 2 files, but you could have any number of files. So you could bring in the fire protection, you could bring in the civil, you could bring in the other models and show all of the interferences amongst the various files. Let's try that again. Oh, here we go. I'm just not that patient. It's very hot today, and I lose my patience when it gets warm. All right, so here we find that 138 problems, interferences between MEP objects and the architectural objects. So let's look at this first one, which is air handler unit with a ceiling. Well, yeah, let's take a look and find out what's really going on. So if I select the air handler unit, look at the properties, I can see that the air handler unit's at 9 foot 3 inches. Well, okay, so let's keep an eye on that. And let's look at the ceiling. What elevation is the ceiling at? And by the way, this properties panel is the properties that show up in Revit. So if you're familiar with Revit, then it's easy to work with the information that comes here. So this ceiling is at 9 foot. That sounds promising because remember the handler unit was at 9.3. However, it's 4.5 inches thick. So there's the problem. We've got the air handler at 9.3. The top of the ceiling is at 9.4.5. Yep, that's going to be a problem. And you'll notice that it isn't just this one air handler unit. We have a group of air handler units which are all at 9 foot 3 inches, and they're all intersecting. So what we can do is grab this as a group, because we're going to solve all of them the same way, and create an issue. So now that issue will go into, like any other issue, it will be commented on, it will be identified, we can assign who's going to resolve it. Maybe you're going to tell the MEP engineer to move all those air handlers units up by 1.5 inches, or maybe we tell the architect to move the ceiling down 1.5 inches. Either way, we're going to identify who's going to resolve it and give them a date for completion. So that way the issues are updated and taken care of. And we can go through and do that for the clashes. And there might be some clashes that aren't real problems. Like here's a clash of a duct going through a wall. Well, maybe that's perfectly fine. If we're above the plenum, yeah, okay, so we can run a duct through the wall as long as we have a sleeve there. So maybe we just have to make sure that there's a sleeve on the penetration. In that case, we would say that is not an issue. So that eliminates it from the list of clashes. So we can work through this and eliminate all of the clashes that either become issues or are not issues. And then that way we can make sure that the overall building quality is ensured with no interferences, no surprises at construction time, which is always a good thing to aim at. As we go through this project, we've got different teams working. And one of the things that would be important for a project manager to keep track of is who's doing what packages have been issued, where are we in the project. So in this particular project, we have the ability to do what's called swim lanes. So here we have the different disciplines in this project: landscaping, mechanical, piping, and so on. And each of these circles represents a release package. So this particular release package is something that the mechanical engineer released and said, this is something that I want everyone else to look at, but this is good. This is something that we feel is a good design. So we could say, all right, well, what's actually in that particular package? Remember, I could be a project manager and I just want to know what's going on. So when we bring that data in, then we could take a look at the models that the mechanical engineer added to that release package. And again, I'm impatient. Here we go. So here we have the package, and we could actually explore that package to say what is the information that mechanical engineer released. So we can see here what was released by that particular mechanical engineer at that time. And maybe we're going to make a comment on it. Maybe we're going to say, no, that's not going to work. Or maybe we say, yeah, I like what you've done. Whatever you're going to respond to, as the project manager or the project leader, you can monitor what's going on from the various disciplines. Now, of course, when you have these different disciplines working, you want to be able to know what the changes are that got released. So if I look at the files in this other project, remember it was separated by the different disciplines. So under architecture, let's look at this particular file. So this is the latest and greatest of the architectural model, and we see it's version 14. So the architect has iterated on their design, and this is the 14th. If we look at the versions, we have all of these versions that go back to the beginning. But usually the most important thing to worry about is what happened in the last version. So this right now is version 14. What did they do between 13 and 14? So what we do is we have a compare capability that found the things that were added, the things that were changed, and the things that were removed. So in this case, there was nothing removed. If there was something removed, it would show in red. Something was added. They added this window. And again, these are Revit level objects. So this is a Revit family object for this particular family that was inserted in this iteration. And in yellow, it shows what was changed. Well, the wall has changed because certainly when you add a window, it cuts an opening for the window. But this door changed. Well, what happened to that door? If I click on the door and it says what happened in the change is it actually was moved by 9.5 feet. So the door was there before, it slid along by 9.5 feet to make room for the window probably. The door was here, slide the door over, put the window in. Okay, I understand that this was a change that was made. I'm happy with it, everything's fine. But this capability of being able to see the changes from one step to another, that could be very important. All right, so it showed you within the Revit family and within the Autodesk Construction Cloud environment, how the information is shared from person to person. Let's refresh our memory on what the workflow is, because this is the sort of thing that you would be able to configure by each project. Within each discipline, the architect, the MEP, the structure, fire protection, within every discipline, they're using Worksharing within the discipline to have multiple people work and synchronizing to a central file that lives on the cloud. when each discipline decides they want to share their model with other people in the project, then they will create a package that is shared. The package is in the shared area. Then the other disciplines will be able to see the latest and greatest that you've created. The coordination can be done at any time and by anyone with the authority to do so. And they would compare the shared packages to make sure that you're working on released information and create the issues of any coordination that needs to be resolved. So you have the issues as a way of communicating, you have red lines and markups as a way of communicating, you've got everybody on the project working together in order to get the project done successfully. So we've seen how the BIM Collaboration Pro helps collaboration on a project. Users have found it extremely beneficial in getting projects completed on time, on budget. The workflow capabilities may seem like a lot, but it really isn't complicated once you roll your sleeves up and make it work for you. If you invest in setting up your projects and integrate the workflow with your current office processes, you'll see those benefits also. And to make that startup easier, MicroCAD provides services to help our customers' initial project with Autodesk Construction Cloud, and we will support you in every phase of the project so you can reap the benefits. Improved communication, guaranteed latest version, project management capabilities, statuses and packages, issue management, auditability, and it's all part of the overall cycle of design, plan, build, operate that Autodesk is addressing. All right, so before we catch up on the questions, let me mention that MicroCAD will present a series of webinars aimed at helping you be effective. Take this opportunity to tell us what topics you would be most interested in by entering them into the chat box. We really want to address your needs. Okay, on with the questions.
All right, so it looks like we have a few questions coming in. The first one, can we use some of these tools to get going and add-ons later?
Yeah, that's a great question, because as you saw, there's lots and lots of stuff here, lots of functions. And real world, if you've got a project that's starting next week, you're not going to have time to get everything set up for you. So the base information is, if you get the cloud work sharing and you get document management set up and going, then you can start working on that project. As your people gain experience, they will see the benefits of the other functionality like workflows, setting in the issue management, using the markups. So you could add those functionalities as the people gain that knowledge without having to impact your meeting of immediate deadlines. So I would say that, yes, you get started. The minimum get started is cloud work sharing and document management, and then you add the other functionality downstream as you need it. But I would say that in a particular project, you want all the partners to be using the same features. So if you start up a project and you're going to be using just the basics at the kickoff meeting, you'd get all of your partners and make sure they all understand what features are being used. And if you're going to add more capability later on in the project, just make sure they understand that also.
Great. Okay, so we also have another question. Can I trust the cloud services? If not, what should I be worried about?
Yeah. Yeah, as we know, you're walking around with your phone, and all of your phone data is being handled in the cloud. Banks have all of their data being exchanged. All the international banking transfers are all handled in the cloud. So we know that the cloud can be secure. There's really two issues. One is it secure? And Autodesk uses Amazon Web Services, and we've got millions of models being out there and shared. And they're encrypted so that any proprietary documentation, any confidential information is going to be controlled under the level of security that Amazon Web Services provides. The second level of concern is, will the cloud be working for me when I've got my deadline coming up? And right now, Web Services provides for I think it's a 99.999% availability. And that is the availability that Autodesk provides. And to date, we haven't seen any major outages that cause significant problems. Now, Autodesk does have a health check site. If you go to health.autodesk.com, it'll tell you the status of the various cloud services, and if they have scheduled maintenance on some of the cloud services, because there are times they update their cloud services. So if they have a scheduled maintenance on Sunday evening, it would be noted in that website. So you can go to health.autodesk.com and see what scheduled updates are occurring if you plan on working over a weekend. Okay.
Okay, great. And then one more question. Can I use CAD as well?
Yeah, you know, AutoCAD, it's out there. Everybody's using it for one thing or another. It's not going to go away. Autodesk knows that. And so Autodesk provided the desktop connector that can be used for accessing the cloud. So from AutoCAD, it's going to look exactly the same as data on your network. The only difference is when you go in to open the file, you'll go to a cloud address as opposed to a local network address. And then your files are stored up in the cloud. You're working, in essence, in the cloud, and other people can work on sharing your data when you're not using it. Now, if you do that, I will say you want to have all the XREFs up there. You want to have all of your ancillary files. So you'd want to make that transition 100%. So you're moving all of the AutoCAD related files to the cloud for that particular project. So it's once you do that, then it becomes just like any other project using AutoCAD.
Okay, great. So it looks like those are the questions that we have for today. So that concludes this webinar. Phil, would you want to show the last slide, see where people can contact us?
Sure.
Just always make sure that you can always contact us. There's always some great events going on. You can check it out at the MicroCAD3D.com website. Again, training, if you get register one person, you get the other one 20% off, if not more. And definitely call your sales rep in order to talk more about BIM and what services we can best provide you, as there's always changes going on in the industry, and we're here to support you any way we can. But other than that, that concludes this webinar. And thanks again, Phil, for sharing with us everything you know. And it was a pleasure to hear from you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Phil. Bye-bye.